All right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us all the way from Minneapolis, Taylor James Donskey.
Hey. Oh, hey, everybody. How are you doing? I wasn't expecting
They are excited to see you.
I know. Yeah, everyone's excited. And I say all the way because sometimes I say that tongue in cheek because I live in Minneapolis and not far from Tony and not far from Taylor, actually. But today I am very far away. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and at the Westin for the Focal Lines International Conference. So hence my very beigey backdrop. But I'm really excited to be here. And, I've basically been doing music 24 hours a day for a few days in. So you can hear I have the Focal Lines cold here happening. But otherwise, I'm healthy. And it looks like Chris has just been released from COVID jail.
All right.
Chris, welcome back to the world. And we're happy to celebrate with you. And I'm glad you're enjoying Uda Pill's beer with us. And Joe laying low and staying cool in South Minneapolis. And Joni also frozen in Minneapolis. Yeah, I have to say, I don't know if I should mention this. The temperature here right now is 34, which feels pretty dang tropical after what you guys are having up there.
Yeah, it's over 30 degrees warmer than it is here.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. If you're new to the show, feel free to chime in the comments. Tell us where you're tuned in from. If you're enjoying a beverage, it's Friday, so maybe you're celebrating in whatever fashion that might mean, with a snack or whatever. I should say that I am enjoying a Boda Box dry rosé from, one of the fancy hotel cups here.
I see that. At least it's see-through.
I know. It's classy here.
Keeping it classy.
The Westin. And Tony, are you enjoying a beverage?
This is a box of wine that I bought a couple weeks ago is the gift that keeps giving, warming me up from the inside once again this week.
Yeah. And Taylor, are you enjoying anything for your
I'm currently inside of this Al's Breakfast mug, one of my Sarah's possessions. I'm drinking a very unique blend. It's called Dandy Blend, which is a very strange coffee alternative because I can't drink coffee or alcohol because both of those is like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Well,
I'm gonna look that up.
I'm glad you found something good. And an Al's Breakfast mug. For those of you not in the Twin Cities, Al's Breakfast is
institution.
Yep. Whole wheat. Get the whole wheat walnut blueberry pancakes.
Anything there.
You could just eat one of them, and that's like a meal for.
Yeah. Keep it going for
Gary
days.
says, "Yay, Al's!" And if you're out there, you let us know where you are. I see Connie in Richfield, and if you're enjoying a beverage, Lynn out in Greenville, South Carolina, and Penny down in Northfield, staying warm. And our friend Rick.
Rick. Hi,
hey, Rick. It will only get better. Maybe referring to the temperature. I hope. Yeah,
I think that's what he's talking about. Well, hopefully your day, no matter if it's been cold or coming out of a work week, this will hopefully definitely get you in a better spot. That's for sure. I'm really excited to have Taylor James Donskey join us today. We've been working on getting him on the show for like months, it feels like. And this has been on the calendar for a while because we kept trying in the fall, and we're happy he's joining us. And for folks who might not be familiar with your music, chances are if they live in the Twin Cities, Taylor, they've probably actually have seen you perform if they've gone out to see any number of roots, jazz, rock bands in town.
I could throw a rock and it would maybe hit me.
Exactly. Well, maybe for folks, though, who aren't familiar with your music, you give a little brief bio, like where did you grow up and, the 2-minute version, where did you grow up and how you got into playing music, and in particular, maybe what sets up this solo record of yours.
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is just on the Mississippi River, about 2.5 hours southeast of the Twin Cities here. I haven't strayed far from the roots I have. And I started playing music when I was young and didn't have much direction in life. And I decided, well, the high school I was at bought a ukulele. I might as well just take that home and never bring it back. So that was sort of the beginning. I had been a piano student and a trumpet student and all sorts of stuff. But the ukulele sort of opened some things up. I was playing the electric bass too at that time. And that was how I got into playing with bands, and how I still to this day play with bands on occasion. And then after getting out of town for a little while for school, I came up here to the Twin Cities and started playing quite a lot jazz, playing a lot of rock and roll, playing a lot of just fun stuff, playing the upright bass, playing the electric bass, and picking up the guitar around that time as well. And not really seriously, just because I wanted to have a more polyphonic approach to music as opposed to these single-minded.
Polyphonic, getting fancy with your words there. Oh my goodness.
And then I started teaching, which is why I know all these words. And so I've been doing that, and since then I've just been working with bands and kind of crafting my own tunes. And this first record, Joyride, was a
Paper Over It, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. My first record is called Paper Over It. I'm so
But
sorry.
we'll put a attack in that, because in a little bit we'll talk about Joyride, because that's your new record coming out. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but Paper Over It came about after many years of sort of just knocking around with a few projects that were my own, and then really wanting to put something out under my own name. And there was a style that was really inspiring me at the time, this kind of new Americana style, very gentle, very direct, and less of frills than most other music I had heard. And so I really followed that pathway and got into the studio at Underwood Studio here in the Twin Cities. Mark Stockert was the engineer there, and we put together a little band and went in there for about 3 days, and came out with Paper Over It the following Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Impressively efficient.
Yeah, well, I think about things way too much, and because of that, things really happen very quickly.
Nice.
Well, we are so excited to dig into this record. I love this album, and it came out in 2020, which we'll talk more about because 2020 was a year. Funny, this came up actually on last week's show as well. But we're really excited to shine the spotlight on it today. And let's take a listen. This first track that you picked is actually the first track on the record, Friend, You're Too Far Away. Is there anything you want to say about the song before we take a listen?
This is a tune about, it's about a friend of mine, and it's just a story of how, you watch some folks kind of drift in and out of your life, and you kind of hope for the best when they drift away, and you celebrate when they return.
All right, let's give it a listen. This is Taylor James Donskey, Friend, You're Too Far Away, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
She's been off in her head, contemplating thoughts, trading debts with the dead. She's walking far, leaving tracks in the sand, looking for feelings of grandeur, light and such, but she knows what to look for, prepared by the life she has led. She remembers the child who traded his soul for a kiss. She's faded fast, throwing stones with a glance, looking for someone to hold her hand, a knife in the other hand. We speak softly now and speak only in the daytime and love something different and I can't see you, friend. You're too far away, and I won't leave you hiding away. But don't you try out your tricks here, unless you're planning to stay. Try as you might, dear, we'll have something to say. Too far away, and I won't leave you hiding away. But don't you try all your tricks here, unless you're planning to stay. Try as you might, dear, we'll have something to say. For days and for weeks now, it passed, the past in the dark. She's waiting for something to come, something she knows that will never. She's walking far, leaving tracks in the sand, looking for feelings of grandeur, of life and sage, but speak softly now and speak only in the daytime and love something different and I can't see you, friend, you're too far away, and I won't leave you hiding away. But don't you try all your tricks here, unless you're planning to stay. Try as you might, dear, we'll have something to say. 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 We'll have something to say.
Taylor James Donskey with Friend
Nice.
You're Too Far Away from his 2020 album Paper Over It. We are revisiting that record today with Taylor on the Back Catalog Listening Party, the show where we invite artists to revisit old records with us and talk about them. And again, feel free to join in the comments, enter your questions, comments, thoughts as we go today, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. And I love that song. I love the pace of it. I love
Mm-hmm.
it just has this, I don't know.
Calming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And it has like this, I don't know if you all notice, because I feel like when I hear the song, I don't really notice that it feels long. Like it doesn't feel long, but it clocks in over 5 minutes about.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about after you wrote the song, did you think at all about that, or just this was kind of what felt the best?
At the time, I wasn't really focused on, keeping things at a reasonable time limit. I wanted things to happen. I wanted
reasonable though is like very subjective, right?
Yeah. I really wanted to expose that chorus. I just love that chorus like far too much. Lena Elizabeth is singing backups on that, and I was like, I just couldn't not have that happen again. I'm sorry for the double negative. And then Andrew Wozniak was playing guitar on that, and I wanted to make sure he got his due as well. Got to do a little slide on there. And we were working with Murphy Jansen on drums, and I think this may or may not be true, but I think in the studio that ending sort of build was sort of part of one of his contributions. Like we were just kind of at the end of that second bit, we were trying to figure out how we're going to come out of this. Are we just going to kind of peter out? And he's like, let's like push it up. And so that was his. So that was kind of the reason why. And that was actually, I think, the first track we did in the studio as well. And I think usually when you start, you kind of throw all your eggs a little bit, maybe not all of them, but like maybe more than need be in the basket of the first song. You're like, let's do it. Oh yeah, the first song. So I think that's what happened there, where we were just kind of throwing a lot of energy behind that. But it did set the tone for the rest of the record. So.
And did you record this then first as well?
I believe so. I believe this was day one in the studio. We were still figuring out sounds and drum things, and since it's such a sparse record, it was a good tune to like figure out what are the drum sounds we're going for. There's no bottom heads on those drums. What's the bass sound? It's like just a D-eyed P bass. We're really just trying to keep it real simple.
I was going to say there was a real natural sound to all the instruments, but particularly the drums. It wasn't saturated in reverb or have any kind of crazy delay.
Yeah.
It just sounded like you're in the room with it, and the bass as well. That's really
cool. That was my initial thought. Was like, I want it to be as simple as possible. I want people to go, oh wow, I can't move. If I move, then they'll hear me move. Just scaring people into listening is an unheard of and vastly lucrative business.
So you were mentioning Lena Elizabeth singing some harmonies, and like was that her then right beneath you? Like there was a couple moments where I almost thought you had doubled your own voice a little bit, but was that her mixed in?
Actually, that's just her. Yeah, I don't think I did any doubling on this record besides a couple of tracks down the way there.
She really followed you really, really well.
Yeah, and at the time too, we had been roommates for a spell, and so I was like able to bother her relentlessly about it. Hey, do you want to practice? Hey, do you want to practice?
Yeah, well, it's like sounded like one voice. Like it was really, really well done.
Yeah. Well, she's really good at it, and we had many years of singing together before that too, so it was a fun time.
Well, our friend Becky Schlegel tuned in
Becky.
here and said, "Gorgeous tune."
Thanks,
agreed.
Becky.
Hey, Becky.
Yeah.
I like your music too.
Oh, I love it. The love. And and it's funny you talk about how you sung for a while with Lena Elizabeth because you've been like a supporting musician for her. And I think the first time I heard you play, you were playing with maybe the Lowland Lakers at the time, playing bass and singing with them.
And they're the reason why I recorded at that studio I did, because we did.
Oh, really?
The last Lowland Lakers record was done at that same studio.
Excellent. And that was kind of a bluegrassy folk kind of trio. And but I think, I don't know how you think about this, Taylor, but again, you spent so many years being a supporting musician, partly being a bass player, that happens probably a lot, but a great singer, and you play plenty of other instruments. This was your first like solo full-length album of your own songs. How did that feel to go into the studio, and did you find yourself drawing on some of those supporting skills?
I actually stepped back a little bit more. I did a bunch of work beforehand, rehearsals with the band, kind of talking them through certain things. But I maybe played bass on maybe one tune on this record. My friend Ryan was playing bass at the time. I believe Rye now. And I kind of let the band kind of take it from there. And we had pre-recorded scratch tracks and stuff like that, and I sort of stepped back and took a listen to as they were playing, and it was really exciting to just hear them work, because I really had never really been able to do that before. So it was a exciting time to kind of step into producer mode and kind of make that brain space more available to myself.
That's nice. So, in terms of what you played on the album, obviously you're singing, playing guitar. Are those the main things you played?
And I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe
some of the lead work, or you mentioned somebody else was playing?
Yeah, that was Andrew Wozniak. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Dave Mailing is playing keys.
I noticed that organ sound in the back.
Yeah.
That was great texture.
Yeah, and I believe that's on an actual B3. Maybe. I have to go check my notes. Excuse me.
Well, it could have been, because it sounded just like one. So.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it's sounding great, and I also love that. I love it when records start with like a slower, more contemplate. So often I think it's such a temptation to like not bury it, but like, okay, maybe number 2 or 3, and like I love it, and I love having it like really just grabs you and pulls you in.
You're there. And what you'll find on the record too is that the next song is shorter but even slower. It has less content. The next song, which of course I didn't pick for this, unfortunately, but go listen to the record. The next song is much slower.
Well, speaking of that, you can pick up the record, and guess what, guys? Today it's Bandcamp Friday.
That's right.
The first Friday of every month. Bandcamp gives 100% of sales to artists. They don't take a cut, so it's a great day to support Taylor and all your favorite independent artists. And you can pick up this record, a physical copy, and the digital version at Bandcamp. So, yes. But let's get into another tune. The next tune you picked to feature on today's show is Today. And I know there's 2 versions of this song. So maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
This will be the shorter version. The original version is 7.5 minutes long,
Wow.
Which I shortened. Because someone said, Taylor, it's 7.5 minutes long. I wanted to write a song that just went on forever. I was inspired by a variety of different tunes. But there was a Bill Withers live at Carnegie Hall. If you ever have a chance to listen to it, his first song, as I believe he was the first solo Black artist to play at Carnegie Hall, everyone's going crazy after his first song. And he just goes, do you want to hear it again? And they just start the song again. They jump back into the chorus, and I was like, I want to do that live. So I was like, I need a long song that just keeps going forever and just feels like it could go on forever. And so that's what this song kind of comes from.
And is this version that we're going to hear then available on the album, or is this like just exclusive radio cut?
Exclusive radio cut, but it is available online. You kind of have to dig through my catalog on whatever streaming services you're using, but it'll usually say radio edit, I believe.
Well, I know after they hear it, folks are going to want to hear the full 7-minute version. But we're going to do the radio single version. This is Today from Taylor James Donskey here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's you. So so beautiful today.
Taylor James Donskey with Today, and that was the shorter radio version, but to hear the full epic 7-minute version of that song, you can find it on his album Paper Over It, which we are revisiting today. And again, you can get at Bandcamp, and he gets 100% of the sales today. And so it's a good deal. And I have to say, when that song was going on, you said you wrote it like with the idea that it could just go on forever and be that. And I will say that chorus is such an amazing hook. I can see what you meant, because you do kind of want it to keep going on forever. And I love that you start the song with a chorus. Beating around the bush. It's like
get right to it.
Hook.
This is what you need to know, and this is what's going to happen for the next 7 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I love that it doesn't like. I mean, you hear instruments and other things come in, but in terms of like dynamics, I love that it's kind of, and it's unusual to hear a song like this that still holds your interest.
Yeah,
that you don't mess around a lot with like volume or voices.
It's like a vibe. It's just like a vibe. That
that was, you know what? It's exactly correct. I was like, this is the vibe I want, and I want it to last forever. If I could listen to this, if I could listen to songs like this, and they just kept on going, I would just, just driving off into the sunset. But then the sun never actually sets if you drive fast.
Right. That's right. Well, the last tune kind of was real vibey too, and you mentioned earlier that this was an opportunity for you to kind of not worry about all the instruments yourself, but put on that producer hat. And I'm just curious about your approach to these songs. Like, you have these great musicians, and they're playing it, and they're putting stuff, they're layering down their tracks. But even though we talked about it being kind of a natural sound, there's still a lot of complex kind of arrangement ideas happening. The space feels very intentional. There's a lot of really interesting interplay of instruments and voices. Can you talk a little bit about your kind of approach as a producer for this?
Yeah. So in that regard, especially for this last tune, it was a lot of like, let's just dump everything on top of it. And then we started pulling away. And actually, in the editing process, there was quite a bit in the editing process, there was a bit more arrangement that happened there. However, in the actual production of it, it was a lot of me sitting at the talkback mic as the next chorus or the next verse was coming up, and going like, all right, less guitar this time, more B3 this time, or like more keys this time. And then just kind of like thinking of like, or just yelling out an idea like chill and that kind of stuff. That's always also fun. It might be annoying to the guys that I was working with, so I'm very sorry if they still hold a grudge. I had a lot of fun. But also that also was born out of a lot of pre-production. I have a big old grid, that has song names on the vertical axis, and then instrumentation on the horizontal axis, and then they all meet in the middle. And then I make notes in these little boxes, and I make sure that everything's in the right place, and kind of like making sure that sounds are put together. So a lot of meetings individually with the players as well, which they were very happy to do, I hope. And if they're holding a grudge about that too, we should talk.
If you're out there, let them know. Let them
know.
It's a conversation.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that, and the layered arrangement also followed a little bit of the lyrical content. This is kind of a love song, and I don't quite always put those together, love songs, and so this was trying to find some more intimate moments. The piano in that last one, of course, was one of the most intimate one of that, and that's actually a piano that was signed by Liberace.
Whoa!
Yeah, very got the vibe in there for sure.
Flamboyant vibes
I heard it
sparkling.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get you Liberace, but yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the piano, because actually that was one of the notes I scribbled down, was like piano, and I put /70s. So one of the things I love about this song is, I mean, it feels like has a kind of contemporary, like Jayhawksy kind of vibe, right? Of just like a roots rock anthem, right? Like I feel like if the world were, if things were how they should be, Taylor James Donskey would be in this band at some stadium, and never would be like, to that song, right? And it would go on at least 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly. So that's what should be happening. But I will say that, and when the piano came in, I was like, but there's such a classic feeling of this song. And the piano kind of had this when it came in, it kind of reminded me of like, yeah, like some great 70s kind of roots rock stuff. And I know
It's a
that
very grounding instrument. Yeah.
yeah, and so I mean, I know that you got your start after being like in high school. You played in like a rock cover band with your uncle. I was
Oh
just
yeah.
curious if that like if those like some of those like 70s and like
Oh,
classic rock songs find their way into your tunes, your recordings.
yes, they in that first record, there's some hints of it, yeah. With the upcoming record, there's far and away more influence um, of those types of music. But yeah, for a few years, I played with my uncle and on a few shows, and it was like kind of my first time like digging into that style of music. It was my father's and my uncle's and like the generation above me's style of music, and of course as a teenager you learn to hate it and find everything that is wrong with it, and I did. I was really good at it, and in fact almost in an academic way, and it only came to I only came to realize much later that that was actually okay, because now I just know a lot about that style of music and really appreciate it. But
Yeah.
before I had to really like the line between love and hate is almost non-existent, is basically what this gets down to. Yeah.
Well, speaking of 70s, Joe says that this seems to build in many ways, including harmony variations like Crosby, Stills, and Nash on Teach Your Children. Is that a band that was one of those bands that you learned to love?
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young was kind of my uncle's thing, but
Okay.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash also an influence as well. And it's actually kind of funny. My mom once requested Teach Your Children of me on a gig, and I didn't know it, and I feel so bad to this day. Mom, I owe you.
Well, I don't know if that's your mom that chimed in earlier.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, great song and video as well. Don't tell anyone who this is, wink wink. Well, she mentioned a video, so tell us about the video for this
Yeah,
tune.
there's a little video. I woke up really early one day, and I got my car. A friend of mine was driving me around, and this is about 5 o'clock in the morning. We're getting the golden hour, and I just took videos of my favorite spots in Minneapolis.
Oh, nice.
So Al's Breakfast makes the cut.
All right.
Twin Town Guitars, where I teach and work and love to be on occasion, and just like a bunch of other wonderful places around town. I just kind of got in my car and filmed it, and a friend of mine, I just threw all the footage towards a friend of mine, and he cobbled together a little edit of it and put some words to it, and there you had it.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Well, we'll make sure to link to that in our show notes. If you go to backcataloglisteningparty.com/147, we'll put a link to that video. And yeah, I love Minneapolis vibes along with the with the 70s vibes. I love it.
Yeah. And speaking of things put together, Chris wanted to know about the album cover.
Yeah, the album cover. So can we bring that up? Can we do that? Oh, there it is. So what you see here, it can look a little strange, but this is my grandfather's machine shed, and this building was built in 1912, and it's a bunch of just aluminum and wood, and it was there my whole life. And what you see in front of it is this kind of yellow thing, and what it is, it's a Japanese Pepsi machine.
Sorry what that was.
And it had, you can kind of see some faded Japanese script on the front there, but this was what my grandfather had in this shed for my whole life, and he used it as a toolbox. And when I was a kid, this was just in the shed. It didn't make any difference where it came from. It just was in the shed. That's how I thought of it. This is just a thing in the shed. But as I grew up, I started to realize, why is there a Japanese Pepsi machine in my grandfather's shed in the middle of Wisconsin, the farthest you could possibly get from Japan? And it turns out that my grandfather, as a welder in his younger days, was actually welding parts for this in my hometown of La Crosse. And so when he left the job, he got to take one of these home with him.
Oh, wow.
And so he had one. So I blacked out the Pepsi logo because, well, getting sued is a surefire way of either getting famous or very broke.
Well, they would have probably liked the advertising, but I actually like the black over the insignia because it leaves so much to the imagination of what this is.
Yeah, it is a bit wild. I've had people come up to me and just tell me all sorts of things. Most of the time, people think it's a cigarette vending machine.
It's got that vintage.
Yeah, it kind of has that vintage to it. But yeah, no, that's That's a Pepsi machine right there.
Can you speak to Paper Over It? Is that another one of the tracks, or
So
what is that?
Paper Over It was a phrase that I just became part of my lexicon as a young kid, growing up, and kind of like growing up and coming of age, you start to realize kind of how you, uh, well, you're kind of go into denial about a few things, or and you just kind of try to forget about things. You don't even actually, you're not even trying. You just do. When you don't like something, you just ignore it. You paper over it, so to speak. And so when I started to notice that, like, this is how my family was sometimes, this is how like my friend groups were, we would just ignore things and it would just be gone. And I think the title itself was an effort to not do that, to kind of uncover that. And so the phrase "paper over it" is like sort of a antithesis of a mantra. It's like a thing I say it to like say don't do
it.
Yeah,
shine a light on it.
I'm very good. I'm already good at that. I don't need to be good at that anymore.
Acknowledging.
I've gotten through that part of my life. Not to say that I'm a completely accepting individual. Now, I try to be as much as I possibly can, but denial is still in the bones of humanity, and so it's hard to get rid of.
So, do you see a lot of these songs? I mean, these are all originals. Do you see some of these songs as sort of speaking to that, trying to like peel back the layers a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot. Some of the stories and some of the impetus behind a few of these are things that I wouldn't normally speak on or talk about or even acknowledge in my own life. And these are they're built. A lot of these songs are built from stories that, or just experiences that I had written down or journaled about or created some sort of other media for. And when I say media, I really mean just like, I don't know, I scribbled a note like, I hate peanut butter, which is a terrible thing to say out loud. I feel so bad that that's not on record. I don't. I'm so sorry. But it was one of those things where I just kind of had collected enough of my own personal writings that I decided that, you know what, I'm actually going to talk about these now. I'm not going to keep them in. I'm not going to push them aside. I'm going to put them in a record, and then once they're in the record, then I can let go of them.
Nice.
Once they have a physical form, I can literally just go, now it's everyone else's problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
Sometimes you just have to name it. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Are there any songs on this record that you don't play live? That you've really let go after recording them?
I think "Steps in the Hall," which is song 2, I don't quite play live. There is also, I think that's actually the only one. "Steps in the Hall" is not only like the slowest song on the planet, but also
it sounds like a challenge. This is the slowest song on the whole
not
planet.
Quite. I've listened to some like sludgy doom metal that's far slower, but this one has probably like the saddest impetus or conceit for me. Just kind of like it's like just a song of regret that just won't let you go. It's just like Hercules trying to come up out of the river Styx and just being dragged down by all the dead. That's kind of what it feels like. You're just like, oh God, I want to get out of here so bad, but I just can't. So I don't shy away from it because it's so painful, but there is an element of that of you just kind of a little too much, and it kind of reminds you of the.
Well, speaking of the live shows, I know I was at your album release show for this album. It was in January of 2020 at Ice House in Minneapolis, and it was packed and it was wonderful. It was joyous, and you did a long version of Today, as I recall. Speaking.
Oh yes, it was. I think
it was epic. There was a lot of dancing. I remember lots of joyful dancing.
Yes,
and you had shared some photos of from I think it was at the album release show, or is that?
This is actually the last gig I played before everything shut down.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it seems like there was so much joy and hope, and like the new record, and and then something happened.
Hey.
And so you weren't able to play a lot of these songs, at least in the traditional settings that you were used to.
Yeah.
But gigging has come back. So I know that you have some shows coming up, especially for Minnesota folks who are tuned in. You'll be celebrating your new record, which you mentioned, Joyride. It's coming out February 24th. A few singles are already out there, but you're playing every Tuesday in January at the 331 Club residency, and then at Big Turn Music Fest in Red Wing. So a lot of folk opportunities to see Taylor real life, bring back the joy.
Yep, we got the whole band out there. It's going to be
maybe an epic version of Today. You never know.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're playing that song every show. That's kind of a staple.
Just how long probably changes, right? Depending on
how long will change. Yeah, and if people want to hear it for longer and longer, we'll just go.
For those just listening, you can find out more about his upcoming shows and the new album at taylorjamesdonsky.com. And we'll also put that link to that in the show notes.
That's right. And we do want to mention that, again, if you want to buy the album, you can do that at Bandcamp. Also, he is often we pass around the tip jar for our guests. And today, Taylor's requesting, he's going to be donating all the tips to the Southside Harm Reduction Services, a great organization. And you can find out more at that link that we're posting there. And it will be also posted in the comments and on the website, so you can do that as well. Right now, though, more music
forever.
And the next one you picked is By the Cut in the Tree. Is there anything you want to say quickly about this?
This one was born out of a few experiences, namely an early late night gig, early morning before 4 a.m. When to sing one of the most I don't want to say cliche, but stereotypical guy gets kicked out of house, girl throws clothing from window experiences. I witnessed this happen late night, and it just highlighted just so many dynamics in my life at that time, and being a witness to something like that, and having to, give a statement to the police and all that stuff. And so this song kind of came out of that.
All right, let's give it a listen. This is Taylor James Donskey, By the Cut in the Tree, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, I know that you've seen they smash a glass as they clap their hands. Still I hear them screaming. Fight, I watch the tears and I hear them speak, saying, "Lady, please stay with me." But you're a sad and lonesome man with a sad and broken plan, who is coming down to his knees, saying, "Lady, please." Well, I know no one sees. Grabs her wrist as she takes a stand. Still they don't believe her. I see her tears, I watch her cry, and I wish they'd speak, saying, "Lady, please stay with me." But you're a sad and lonesome man with a sad and broken plan. sad and lonesome man with a sad and broken plan, who's coming down to his knees, saying, "Lady, please," who's coming down to his knees, saying, "Lady, please."
I feel like every song I have to wait for the organ to fade. Taylor James Donskey with By the Cut in the Tree from his 2020 album Paper Over It, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party. Folks loving the music, including David, who said, I thought I was done with Bandcamp for the day, because Bandcamp Friday, so artists get 100% of sales there. So it's a great day to shop for your favorite artists and get new music. He said, I thought I was done, but I had to get this one. That's right.
Nice.
You do want to get this record because it sounds awesome. And the quality of the production just sounds so good. And Tony and I can attest to this because we're listening to it before it goes through all the YouTubes, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with Chris. Our friend Chris Jetner was talking about the kind of Mark Knopfler touch on the guitar. So I was noticing that too, Chris. That sounded great. Remind us who that was.
And that's Andrew Wozniak, and yes, I asked him to do something very like that. Do you know who Mark Knopfler is? And he almost smacked me across the face. Like, what are you saying?
I love it, but again, that was just fit the song so well. Another
Tasty.
great vibe there.
Yeah.
Interesting
Andrew.
to hear the inspiration behind the song too.
Yeah. It was a fun time to put that all together.
Well, we have been having a fun time with Taylor James Donskey. Again, this is the show, if you're new to it, where we invite different artists on to revisit old records. And the hour has been going by so fast. I can't believe we have so little time left.
I know. I say this every week that it does that, but I mean, this time it's actually true.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone. It's just us, right? It's just us and the folks. It's just us and David and Joe and all these people. It's that no one else is watching this, so no one will know. But we are going to squeeze in one more song. And also Joe, I know we have a couple Joes in the feed, but one Joe was saying he was happy to be here. It might be newer to the show, but he was asking who is coming up on the show. And I will say, we'll talk more about this in a bit. There's a way you can find out, get at the inside scoop, but I will tell everybody who is up next week on the show. We have Ann Heaton from Chicago, who's this amazing folk pop musician, teacher. She does songwriting workshops. She's amazing. So she's on next week. But we have a pretty jam-packed schedule for this spring. So if you join our Patreon, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you can get the inside scoop of who's coming up on the show. But let's get into the last song.
We still have another Taylor James Donskey song here, and I think we are going to move up to Box and Letter. Is there anything you want to say about this one?
This is the barn burner at the end of the record. We had a lot of fun putting this one together. It's probably the loudest one on the record. The next one being Today is probably the next loudest song, but this one is very personal to me personally. Course. This one is probably the most personal song on the record, talking about an old version of me that probably would have said these things but doesn't say them any longer.
All right, well, we're closing out the show today with Box and Letter from Taylor James Donskey. Turn it up. This is the back catalog listening party.
Outside from the room, I see the smallest one separate from the rest, screaming, grabbing fists of sand. The tears ain't all
Box and Letter, Taylor James Donskey from his album Paper Over It. And that was pretty epic as it is. But, I noticed if you go to Bandcamp, where you can buy this record we've been talking about today, there's also a live version recorded at Ice House of
There
this song.
is,
And I
yeah.
have to ask, I know we can all go listen to it. Is there anything you want to say about the difference between the two songs?
I think the live version, we got real lucky with the venue that allowed us to do that. The Ice House put a lot of great mics up there, but it was just a great time. It's pretty rocking, maybe a little bit faster. And then I think there's a bit of a more epic ending than we get in the recorded version. So go check that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can get it all at Bandcamp Friday. Just get all of, including some of those new singles that will be on Taylor's new record, Joyride, which comes out February 24th. You can find all of it at bandcamp.com. And you can keep tabs on what Taylor's doing by going to his website, following him on all the social places, and find out about that new record, because I've gotten to listen and it's really good. And it's really rocking. So if you like the rocking stuff, that's you're going to hear more of that. So it's getting to be that time. So I want to thank everyone for coming on, joining us today for the back catalog listening party. And it looks like folks have been digging the music. I know I have.
Yeah, me too.
And Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on today's show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Yeah,
so
likewise.
fun.
Yeah. I like Ellen said, if you want to hear the whole thing, slide on over to Bandcamp and pick this up. And Bandcamp has this cool feature where you can pay what you want. So if you wanted to throw a little money in Taylor's tip jar, he's a hardworking musician. He's got a new record coming out. You can actually pay more than he's asking for the album, and we highly recommend you do.
Yes. And again, we're excited that you joined us today. If you liked it as much as everyone says they're liking it, like it on YouTube. Give it the thumbs up and direct more bots to this guy.
Hey, you know where to point.
Yeah. After a couple years, I'm finally learning where to point. Like it's taken that long. Gary and Rick and Connie and Steve all enjoyed the show. And I will say that another thing that makes this show possible, aside from all of you being here, because if it was just to be fair, Taylor and Tony and I would just hang out and geek out about music.
Right, but you put the party in the listening party.
Exactly. It's so and getting the extra questions and that conversation is so valuable. So we're really grateful you're here. We're also really grateful for thanks, Gary. We're really grateful for our Patreon supporters. This is why we are still going. Going on 3 years.
That is mind blowing. That is absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah. Thanks to these folks. These folks have kept the party going in all kinds of ways. Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pickham, Harler, Severin, Lynn, Jake, Mary, Mini Tracks, Nikki, Joni, and David. All of these folks support the show, and they get first dibs on learning who the guests are. So we have them, as soon as we book them, they find out about them. So that's the best way to find out about the upcoming guests. We also do like Zoom after parties and live streams and other kinds of cool things for our Patreon supporters. So if you are interested in getting more involved in the party, and the party planning, because also some of our best of episodes are crowdsourced from our Patreon supporters. So.
Yep, and they actually give us a line to their favorite artists too. So we oftentimes learn about new folks through our Patreon supporters. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you to all of you who came and all of you support, and mainly keep supporting artists like Taylor, going out to the live shows, buying the records, because we need them to keep making records so we keep having albums to talk about here in Back Catalog. Not that we're going to run out anytime soon.
No, but yes, Taylor, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. This has been a real pleasure, and really looking forward to having some new back catalog that you're creating this year, and talking to you again sometime in the future.
Right on.
Yes.
Making it.
And from Kansas City, I'm going to sign out and get back to the folk music madness here at Folk Alliance International. And I'm sure Taylor and Tony are going to be up to their own trouble tonight. And this weekend.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you back next week for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.
All right.
Have a great weekend. Cheers.
See you next week.